Good evening, folks, and welcome to it. It's
Guys,
Monday
can you
Night
hear?
Football. And in the background there, yes, we can hear you loud and clear as one of our guests for tonight in Coach Kevin Johnson. We were just making sure that he had all the technical stuff sorted out so he can join us alongside Kelvin Sosibo, and we also have FM Sadika in the house of the show tonight as we go through what has been happening as far as our local teams in their African adventures, and of course what's been happening in the DSTV Premiership. And let's start there with the big news. Just to show you how quickly things can change in a week. It was only last week that Coach Kevin Johnson was on here saying, hey, man, it would be disrespectful for me to speak about the Chiefs job because there's still a coach there. So today he'll have the opportunity to speak about it with no problems because there's no more coach there. So it's okay. We can speak openly and freely about that. And there was a very short, terse statement from Kaizer Chiefs. They just said after a series of meetings, Kaizer Chiefs and Coach Stuart Baxter have come to effect. Now, the news was on social media prior to it actually being announced by the club. So they just went on to, spell out his record for the season, tell us that Arthur and Dylan will be leading the senior team for the rest of the season, and that they wish him well in the future. As simple as that. Let's start with you, Rob. Your response and your reflections on the sacking or mutual termination, let's call it what it is, between Stuart Baxter and Kaizer Chiefs. Welcome.
Thanks, Kamza. Yeah, look, I mean, the end of any relationship is sad. No matter why the relationship comes to an end. I'll be honest, I was surprised when Coach Stuart rejoined Chiefs. I didn't think that he was necessarily the going forward person that I thought the club needed at the time. But he had a proven record with them, and so I guess everybody at Chiefs was hoping for a return to that. The thing is that reality is that everybody's behind Sundowns, so you needed to take it up a level. Unfortunately, Chiefs didn't take it up a level. Unfortunately, the results didn't come. And this is the nature of the business. Maybe the past few appointments haven't been right for the club. We've seen this in this history where a club like Kaizer Chiefs, who for the most time of my life watching Kaizer Chiefs, would have coaches for long periods and lots of success. And then suddenly we've seen 5-6 coaches in 5-6 years. This may be the cycle if success doesn't change. It's all going to depend on who they bring in to replace him. Mm-hmm. I do think that from an outside point of view, watching Chiefs, a lot of the time, they didn't feel like I said it before, they didn't feel like a championship challenging team. I don't know if it's the personnel or how the personnel was used. And this is the club, I'm guessing, deciding that it was how the personnel was used. Now we're going to see. Are we going to see a Kaizer Chiefs stamp come in the interim with Coach Zwane? And who are they going to bring in? Are they going to take the team to the next level? Because while we can criticize them not being able to challenge Sundowns, they are at the right end of the table. Until a few weeks ago, there was still this outside chance of them challenging Sundowns. So it wasn't the worst reign by a coach, but unfortunately, it wasn't the best either. And perhaps also losing in the cups, which in the first round in both the MTN or quarterfinals in the MTN 8 and losing out in the Nedbank was the final seal. The fact is that they can't win anything again.
Yeah, for sure. And to the points also, if you look at Stuart's record in his return, he oversaw 23 matches, excluding 3 matches in the league in December. He won 9 of those, drew 6 and lost 8. Managed to score 25 goals and concede 23 during that time. Is that the kind of record where the writing was almost always on the wall?
Definitely. I think that's been the writing on the wall. Good evening to the viewers. Yeah, I think Rob is right on what he's saying, most of the points. And I think Chiefs, all they needed somebody that needed to come in and get back to the old groove that Kaizer Chiefs always had. And unfortunately, things didn't pan out the way they'd have planned. Reason being is it's still the same players that are there. The squad hasn't been refreshed for quite a long time. And I think the depth of the squad was solely reliant on the people that were still there, which is old guard. So if ever were there to change anything, they always had to dig down deep and then try and refresh the squad. Then at least give themselves at least another 2 or 3, 4 years to rebuild the squad, like that, like how Sundowns has done. They went deep down. They set themselves up into a 5 to 7 years. When Petro came in, he always said that we're building a machine, a Sundowns that's not going to be that's going to be unstoppable, which is exactly what we're witnessing now. So I think within the 3 top teams that are up there in the league, I think it's for them now to realize that having your 5 year, your 6 year plan until you get into maturity and then you start taking all over these cups and participating in Africa. I think that's where it starts. If we plot our cards properly, I think this is the way to go. For Chiefs, they always wanted somebody that's going to get them back those trophies. That will help them to challenge for the league. Unfortunately, Stuart Baxter was their lucky charm. At this point, I don't think he was, because at the end of the day, he was sacked.
No, for sure. Coach Kevin Johnson. I mean, we look at Kaizer Chiefs, and you wonder, does it still have the same allure for players? Players looking at the prospect of looking to win things and challenge for things. Is Kaizer Chiefs still that big draw card, do you think, for players? Coach, I'm wondering if you can hear me.
Yes. The audio was not. I can hear you, but the audio for and then I didn't hear what they were saying, and I didn't catch the first part of the argument.
Okay.
The conversation was all about, I think, Stuart getting fired and why and things. I didn't get anything of that. I didn't know what you said. I was
Cool. It's cool. You're going to give us an unfiltered response then. Not tainted by any of our other contributors' answers. So it's fine, Coach.
Just come.
What are your thoughts on the Chiefs situation?
Yeah?
Your thoughts on the Chiefs situation? Do we have a Man United in South Africa type situation where the coach is going to have to come in and make big wholesale changes? I think we're going to be struggling a little bit.
From outside in, can you hear me?
I'm struggling to hear you. I'm just checking if the rest of the audience can hear you okay. There we go. We lost the coach. Signal not playing ball this evening as far as his
no
connection.
comment.
Yeah, no. He knew that I was coming with all the Kaizer Chiefs questions after last week. But I mean, guys, looking at that, are we in that situation? Let's talk about that. Is it an attractive proposition still to go to Kaizer Chiefs? Do you think players think that that's a place they can win things as far as titles and a cup or two? And is it the kind of Herculean job that we're speaking about at other clubs like Man United, where they are going to have to move on quite a lot of the players, because a lot of what's been said about the Chiefs squad is that it's quite old and a lot of the players have grown old together at that club?
Personally, I would think a lot of coaches would love the prospects of the challenge, because, the thing is that there are some really good players at the team, in the squad. Yes, we must also remember that Stuart did not have it easy when it came to injuries with some of them. And also, perhaps, football is such a subjective sport. Every single day, somebody selects a starting 11, and I look at it and I think to myself, well, I'd pick a different team. I'd pick this guy. I'd pick that guy. When Stuart arrived, he mentioned that he didn't really know Njabulo and Gogo. I'm somebody who believes in momentum. So here was a guy who just won Defender of the Season. He would be first on my starting lineup. So a lot of things are sometimes subjective, and what the coach knows and what the coach doesn't know. So I look, I think Kaizer Chiefs are still Kaizer Chiefs. The thing is that sometimes you need a little bit of luck as well. Let's not forget that that Sundowns should not technically have 5 DSTV Premiership League titles in a row. That Chiefs were 20 minutes away from breaking that run. And perhaps that momentum would have changed everything. Last season, they had a transfer ban. All of this is happening during a trophyless period. There could just be a moment where all of these things start working together. I also think that sometimes, I mean, this is again, this is my opinion, and perhaps other coaches would have a different one. I think that had they used the players they had in a different way, they might have had different results. Because I look at the team, and Keegan Dolly's a star. Kama Billiat's a star. There's young players in that squad who have the potential to be real stars. But they also have to get into a habit of winning. I've seen it so often with teams that have really good players, but they can't get out of it again. And then the psychological thing switches back to where they were 3 matches ago. And that's what I saw happening at Chiefs. I think they really need a breath of fresh air. They seem to have started it in management a bit. Things that are behind the scenes are not the same as they were 2 years ago. Now maybe they need it a little in the forefront as well. They really need something that just sparks the fire again. Because it's important, it's important for us to have competition in this league. It's important for Sundowns to have competition in this league if they want to do well in CAF Champions League. Because before every big game, they're playing domestically. So they need the challenge to stay at that level too. But we need guys to get up to that level with them, or at least get very close.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so the Trumps are how dividing, boy. I mean, I'm looking at Itu Kune here. 2011 is when he joined. I'm looking at Bernard Parker. No. Kune is in 2004. My bad. It's Bernard who joined in 2011. You got Eric Mato who joined in 2012. Daniel Cardozo joined in 2015. When are these players moving on to pastures anew, my brother?
That's a good one. I had a very interesting conversation with one of the scouts at Kaizer Chiefs, and they have a beautiful plan that just needs to be executed. And I think I will agree with Rob in some part of it. I think in all that on that phase where Chiefs had a ban, I think that was a proper time for them to rebuild. That was their proper time to really dig deep in terms of how they're structuring the team. When I spoke about the 5-year plan, this is where it resides from. Again, when you get back into the market, you're still doing the same mistake. So what happens now? You had an opportunity where you can fix the team, as young as it is, and new fresher players that are coming in with injuries, we do understand, but do you have the backup? Now, once you have the backup, and then it gives you that allowance to plan around the squad to say, this season, we're not going to be competing. We just want to play maybe top 8, but you're not going to be up there with the big boys. Why? Because we cannot sign. We got a FIFA ban. So immediately when we come back, at least these youngsters that we'll be bringing in, or players that we can get around us that are going to help us, it's just so that they can sustain us on the league. And then after that, we're going to start looking in terms of how do we integrate the players that we're going to be bringing in? Are we scouting the right talent to represent Kaizer Chiefs? What kind of philosophy that Chiefs needs to go forward with? Do you want to bring back the old Kaizer Chiefs and the style of play that they want to play? When I go to the market, who am I fetching? Am I fetching somebody just because he's available? Am I fetching somebody that is going to contribute to the team? These are some of the questions that were helping Chiefs with the ban. I think, for me, the ban was a lot.
So we lost your mic, brother. We lost your mic. That
Everybody
scout,
lost.
that scout must have cut it off.
Sorry about that, guys. I
No
think I
worries.
just got a call. Yeah.
That's-
As I was just getting my point across, the scout just had to cut me off. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, but anyway, back on that point, I think, as I'm saying, it was the ban for Chiefs was a blessing in disguise for them to reshape their team and reform it and then get it oiled up for a better run on the next season. But again, immediately when they got the ban uplifted for them, they still made the same kind of mistake. They still stick on with the older players. With Chiefs, knowing them that they have such great history and them signing always players that are on form and who are fit in those positions. We don't have to experience the Kaizer Chiefs where they're putting players on misfit position. You take a right back, you put him on a left back. You take a center back, you put him on the middle. Why? Because we're just trying to make shifts. So when you're signing players that are going to be a good fit on those terms. So when you take out Arthur Zwane, you always knew that there's going to be another player that is going to replace him on the side. Skarangove, you'll get someone also on the other side. Striker, you got Shoes Mushwe, you got your Sean Bartlett's. Defense, you got Patrick Mabedi. Midfield, you got your Derek Spencer. So on and so on.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's about depth, and it's very hard to have quality depth to sustain you through a season, unless obviously those players have the prospect of winning something and having something big to play for. I mean, Coach, might as well carry on with this tack. Arthur got his opportunity at the weekend. It didn't quite pan out. Obviously, Stevie B and his Stelly side in front of a home crowd finally were able to record themselves a good 1-0 victory, bit of a smash and grab in that game. So obviously the fans got their wish. Old coach is out. The coach that they thought is the man to take them forward was in. Did you see any signs in that game that showed a difference, even though they lost?
I watched a little bit of the game, Gamza, and I looked at the mentality and the attitude. They looked a little bit happier. And yes, I said this 2 or 3 or 4 of our past interviews we had or talks we had, is that Stellies is a really, really good team. Stevie Barker has built a good team over the last 4 seasons, and he's bringing in a lot of youngsters that are able to maintain his standard of play, and especially in Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch is a hub for football, especially in that little area. So you're going to struggle when you get there, and because of the Chiefs' background that they have in the last season, nobody respects them anymore. They don't give them the respect like they gave them before. You get what I'm saying?
That fear factor is gone. Yeah.
That fear factor is in fact it's practically disappeared. So to say they will come back now, because normally we will say like it's happened at the Swallows, at an Amazulu. You bring a new coach in. There's 5 games to go. He'll be able to steer that ship to at least 3 games to win, and he'll be okay. At Chiefs, it's not like that. It's not like that. Chiefs is a big team, and they're supposed to have that fear factor wherever they go. They don't have it. So to build that, exactly like Kevin says, it's going to be a mountain to climb, and someone that's very clever and the people that work for him is going to have to be extra careful or extra clever, because it's not this season that Chiefs has happened. And yes, it always happens that the team doesn't do well. Who do you chop? You don't chase away 20 players. You chase away 1 man. You chase away, you get rid of Stuart Baxter. You can't get rid of 20 players. You get what I'm saying? But
I hear you, Coach. So where do you start then? Where does the job of fixing the club start? They've gotten rid of the coach. I guess some would argue that's the first step. What now? What's next? And do you do it ahead of the next coach coming in, or do you wait for the next coach to get there before you start pulling the trigger?
I think you should by now, as a club, sat down and said, yes, we need to get 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to identify who is going, and we need to let them go. And at the same time, you need to make sure that you don't get too much of the public involved in this,
Hmm.
because the public seems to be pulling the trigger in South African football.
So
The
you
public
think
seems
Stewart
to
was
be-
fired by the fans and not
No.
necessarily by Chiefs?
I'm not saying that, Gamza, but I'm saying whenever there's a demand in our country for the coach must go, the coach must go, the coach must. Before long, you find out the coach gone. The coach is gone. How did this coach go? Because he hasn't been he hasn't done bad. He hasn't done bad. He's done okay. Yes, Chiefs is a big brand. Chiefs is a brand, but you gotta and as a coach, you gotta maintain that brand. You gotta win at least some form of trophy. But
right.
Calvin hit the nail on the head. It happened when they had the ban for signing, and they couldn't sign for 2 seasons or 2
windows. Yeah,
2 windows. They couldn't sign, but then that was where it had to knock you on the head like like a brick and say, "Hey guys, we can't. Therefore, we need to compete with Sundowns, who are buying left, right, and center, who are playing CAF competitions all the time." And then what happens is, during that ban, as Kaizer Chiefs, you end up playing the Champions League final. So your mind, in my eyes, your mind is blurred, because you forget about everything and say, "Wow, here we are, Kaizer Chiefs haven't signed in the 2 seasons, and here we are playing the CAF Champions League final." So you forget. You think that what you have is good enough.
Yeah.
But it's giving you a false look for the next period. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you, Coach.
Besides the 2 bands, you end up in a final. You come second to the biggest team in Africa, Ali, and you say, "Well, you know what? I can do this again with the same players." No, you can't. No, you can't. Because the next year, the same players are going to say, "Yeah, well, we were in the Champions League. Let's go. The ones you're going to play now is just a lot of muhus." You know what I'm saying? And you burn your feet. You burn your fingers. You burn your fingers big time. And that is what's happening now. We're looking for Chiefs to be in the Champions League final.
Yeah.
With what they have, you got to have a lot of steroids in your pocket.
Okay. Well, this is the question then to you, Soso. Do you think that the fans of Kaizer Chiefs would be disappointed then in terms of what happened with the transfer ban? You know, you have that time to kind of plan your acquisitions. Obviously, they had to kind of farm some players out that they wanted to get immediately, but couldn't due to the ban. Then they came out of it and they acquired a couple more players. Do you think the fans are happy with what they acquired after they came out of the ban? Did they do enough? Did they make up for the lack of investment during the ban? Do you think they used the opportunity after the ban to reinforce and strengthen enough?
The answer is maybe no, because they only got the players that were available. Maybe 1 or 2 of the players that they wanted to sign that they got on board. But the rest, I just feel that they were makeshift players just to fill into those positions. Why do I say that? I'm justifying it by see the lack of game time that they've got since they signed. So within that, also them quickly getting into the conveyor belt into Chiefs and knowing how things are. If you're going to sign a player, your scouting needs to be informed that your scouting needs to understand that the type of player that they're bringing in is a player that is going to fit. You can't sign a player that you're still going to test, and already you're under pressure that you had a period where you were not signing. So this period offers you and gives you an opportunity, because as a coach, and Coach Johnson will attest to this, immediately when you take up a team or you inherit a team, immediately as when you go there, you start looking who's there, who are the players that are leaving, how many years are left on their contract, who are the players that I want, how many years are left on your contract, can we afford that player, yes or no? Yes, if you can afford the player, then you can bring him in. But they shouldn't have a case where they're presenting a player that is free that you don't want. And people rave about it, and then you bring the player on board because he had 1 or 2 matches against Pirates, Chiefs, and Sundowns, and then you think he's a good fit for Chiefs. That's wrong. So it's also for the fans to really be educated in terms of how they watch matches and which are the players that needs to be at Kaizer Chiefs. You need to watch those type of things, because the players that they might want, it's players that Kaizer Chiefs budget is not allowing them to get those players. But the players that are free are the ones that are actually going to Kaizer Chiefs. So I think that's one of the points that on their side, they might say, yes, it was unfair not to be signing players, but at the end of the day, the reality was who was available immediately when they got the powers to sign. How much were those players? Were they? How many years were they? Can they buy them out of their contracts? No, they couldn't. So the only thing that they were resorting into was just to go ahead with the players that were free or order the players that were cheaper.
Well, there we go. They say free transfers are free for a reason. Rob, if we look at this,
Gamza, even Kelvin, I need to add on to that as well. Big team like Chiefs, and I've been through a lot of scouting processes, and I've been to some of the biggest teams in Europe, Ajax Amsterdam. Before they sign a player, Ali themselves, before they sign a player, whether he's free or he's not free, before they sign a player, someone has watched that player for more than 300 games.
300?
That's at youth level. They sign, they're looking at the player for 2 years, 3 years. They're not looking at the player for 6 months or 5 months to find out that he's free. They're looking at players for years. And this is where we need to get, this is where we need to educate your fans to say, you know what? We're not signing this player because he's free. We're signing this player because we've been watching him for the last 3 seasons.
For sure.
And we've seen him over this period and that period. And therefore we know he can fit into this team sometime in his life. I mean, I was the chief scout at Ajax Cape Town when they just started. We made sure that all the scouts, when we bring in a youth player at under 11, the minimum requirement was 30 games that he had to watch that child. 30 games. And then he had to watch it for 30 games, but he had to take someone else with him to watch the game. For example, if I was the scouting for under 11, I would watch a player for 30 games, but in that 30 games, I would have told the under 15 coach, listen, guys, come sit with me just to watch this player, please, and give me your opinion. And then I'll bring another person. And that is like a structure that I set up. He needed to come back. And then by the time he brings his 30 papers, he's got Kevin Johnson, I'm the chief scout of this player, but he still has the same things. Gamza came with me. Gamza said, no, this player is not good enough. Next, Calvin came with me. Calvin said, no, this guy is very good. And he's the under 19 coach. He's a little bit more experienced than Gamza, who's the under 15 coach. But I'm scouting for the under 11s. Right. And this was our procedure. And that made the fans understand who we are signing. There was what you get in people say now, Chiefs only sign free players. That is because they allow that type of conversation to come into the club. And I think South Africa is the only clubs that allow people to sort of think, they only sign free players. So they say that on social media, and that becomes like a norm. We only sign in free players. It shouldn't be like that. People shouldn't know how our club is run. We tell them how our club is run. Our club is run like this. And everywhere else in the world, Gamza, you will see. You don't know how Manchester United sign players. You don't. You just see they coming in, going out, but you don't know, because they fed their people on how they scout and why they scout. And
also if a player leaves on a free, coach, it's usually a disaster. It's like the sign of bad management. It's just like no foresight from the management to say, hey, let's get some value for this player.
Exactly. Kamsa, if I can make a bad analogy, before becoming a journalist, I worked in the film industry. And when a movie had 8 screenwriters, you knew it wasn't a good script, because somebody's rewriting. And I find that that's what's happened at Kaizer Chiefs, because we've mentioned that over the last 5-6 years, there's been a number of coaches, and everybody comes in with a plan and then tries to either rewrite or continue the script. Now, to use a comparison, just because they played on the weekend, Steve Barker, Stellenbosch. Almost 6 years ago, he joined Stellenbosch as an assistant coach to Sammy Troughton, and then took over from Sammy. And I was covering Glad Africa, or NFD in those days, and he told me, Rob, there's these young guys who are the future of Stellenbosch Football Club. And he said these two cousins, Ashley Dupree and Dino van Rooyen. This is 5 years ago. They only started becoming regulars 3 years later. And now they're Stellenbosch stars. But it's the same screenwriter from 5-6 years ago who's been allowed to build this project. So now, he's been allowed to actually, it's why. I mean, I'm sure Coach Kevin, who has done this before at Platinum Stars as well, with even some of the players who are at Chiefs now. I'm thinking of Mabaliso. Mabaliso should have 120 PSL games under his belt. Because his development started back then already. Ashley and Dino, and actually Leletu Skellum was the third one, who's now at Maritzburg. But those guys, they were planning back long before they made the first team. And so the script has stayed the same. Now, obviously, it's a lot easier at a club like Stellenbosch, where, first of all, the management is obviously, believes in Coach Steve, believes in what he was doing, and they have a 5-year plan, and they're ahead of the plan because they've been allowed to stick to the plan. Chiefs, I mean, let's be frank. When I was on with you guys last, Coach Gavin Hunt was on, I said to him, Chiefs have a lot of Coach Gavin's players. There's a whole bunch of guys they signed that were signed for Coach Gavin. And Stuart took them over. And yes, he brought one or two other players in as well. But still, it was a rewrite now of the script. Now somebody else is going to come and do it again. So are they going to give him a long period to do pre-production, to do what Coach Kevin is talking about, of being able to scout watch a player for 30 games, because maybe by the time they've watched that player for 30 games, the coach is gone. And then somebody else comes in, and it's this ongoing cycle.
For sure. Consistency.
Planting a seed and watching that tree grow is a luxury in football, unfortunately. I think Steve Barker has been very lucky. He had it at Amatux as well. Coach Gavin had it at Supersport and at Wits. Coach Kevin had it at Platinum Stars. But when he got, but when I always thought to myself, wow, we've got the coach here. He was very unfortunate at Supersport, because before he could actually, he planted his seeds, he started watering them, and sometimes the weather isn't perfect. So you got everything, and then you got to go back to your original farm. This game is cruel. Sometimes when you see those things actually happen, and you're seeing it at Stellenbosch, suddenly Coach Steve can put in 12 under 21 players, because there's a philosophy at the club, there's a belief at the club, and there's a belief in that script.
Okay, speaking about scripts and blockbusters, this is for you guys on YouTube as well. Who do you want to direct the next Kaizer Chiefs blockbuster? Who's next up to take the hot seat? Let's start with you, Kelvin Sosibo. Who should hop in the hot seat? And Coach Kevin Johnson, I'm coming for you, because last week you were able to dodge the question, not this time around. Then I'm going to get to you as well, Rob, as to who do you think is then best suited to take over as far as that head coach position is concerned at Kaizer Chiefs. So go for it.
With the experience, consent, and the amount of mileage in the development ranks, the understanding in terms of the building of the structure, and getting a team from scratch, and having the identity of the team being embedded and how they want to play, and
Yeah.
how to build onto that. I think the
Yeah.
man is right here. He's sitting next to us.
I knew
he's the
you were
most
going that way.
informed person that has to be, for me personally. This should not be taken by. This should not be viewed
Chiefs
as
fans,
being
don't
biased.
attack Kelvin.
Yeah, don't attack me. This is what I see, and according to what Chiefs read, according to what Chiefs needs right now, this
Yeah.
is exactly that. They had an opportunity to rebuild from scratch, and I think this is the second opportunity now. If they need to go somewhere, they need to find somebody that understands that development is highly important, and having somebody that has that experience and that expertise that has been long in the game, that understands that they need somebody with so much experience to help Kaizer Chiefs to go to a different direction. If Chiefs has to go and compete for the league, or for Chiefs to come back and play good, exciting football, like how we've seen with Ajax, how they did, I think that it's the right time now. And then we have people that are abundant here, and one of them, we are lucky he's around us here. I'm not going to mention him, but he's here.
He's here. Oh man, I'm so glad that you
I'm
think I
not a
could coach a
coach.
team. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
No, I'm saying I'm not a coach, so I'm just
Yeah, no,
doing the calculations here. You're not a coach.
No, well, I don't know. I mean, he also believes that I have something. I think he's talking about me. All right, Rob, let's go.
The profile is depending on what the profile of the club wants. If the we've been hearing a lot about them wanting to invest in young players. Well, then you have to. Over the past few years, we've had a few coaches who've done that. Coach Kevin is a great example of doing that. I think of Gift Links, Mabaliso. I'm just thinking of that one generation of Platinum Stars guys who were all Atledisa, and they all came through the academy. Coaches like Kevin, coaches like Musin Ertegral, coaches like that who have a profile of giving young players a chance are great for the big project. If Chiefs want to be competing for leagues and competing for the trophies next season, well, maybe then that's not the profile of the coach that they need to get. Then perhaps they need to get a coach who's going to steal the limelight, who's going to be the star. And I'm not sure. You never know. The other day, Andreas Villas-Boas was on Table Mountain. And I was like, on holiday, but I was like, why are none of the clubs just, getting up to Table Mountain to invite him? Because sometimes that's what actually works as well. We've seen with Coach Benny. Coach Benny can come in and do something very quickly, but we haven't seen what happens with him in a long-term project. Because it happens that every time he's a victim of his own success. But this is the thing is that this is also needs to be clarified by the club. What is the profile of the coach they want? Are they building something for the future? Are they going to give a coach the time? Because to be honest, the record at the moment over the 5 years says no. If you're not winning silverware within a year, we're getting rid of you, even if you don't win that silverware based on 20 minutes. So the thing is that's a gamble. I wouldn't want to be Coach Kevin's agent in this situation because I wouldn't know what to suggest to him. I would, I want if I was an agent, I would want my clients to have a long-term job. It's a tricky one.
Okay, Coach Kevin, you're up.
Yes, sir.
What do you think? Because I know some publications have reached out to you for comment. So here you are. You have a platform where you cannot be misquoted. What do you think?
Kevin, give us the name.
It's the same as him, Coach, just without the L. Just without the L. Same. It's Kelvin without the L. That's it.
Kelvin, I'm honored, my son. I'm honored. Gamza, last week I said I won't talk about it because the man has still got his job and it's coaching ethics. Mm-hmm. But now that it's out in the public, the people have been talking. I'm honored. I'm really, really honored, and I think Kaizer Chiefs. Yes, we can go there, and we can build a team. I believe you can build a team, but you have to have the people around you that's prepared to build a team quickly. There's a quick fix, and like Robert said, there's a quick fix that can happen soon, but inside of that, there has to be a path as well. But a path not for Kevin Johnson, not for Gamza, not for Kelvin. The path has to be for Kaizer Chiefs. The path is not for Kevin Johnson. And I always maintained wherever I've worked, I don't work for Kevin Johnson. The day I work for Kevin Johnson, then I will play tennis. Because that is Kevin Johnson. But the day I say I work for Kevin Johnson, or the day I say then I know I'm on the wrong path, because I think I felt that since the first time I started coaching. I never coached for myself because that was not part of my DNA. The part of my DNA is I coach for the team. A good coach coaches to win. A good coach coaches a team to win. And I always say a team makes a coach. The coach never makes the team. The team makes the coach. And when you do that, then you're able to get strides. And a lot of us don't see what a good coach is. A lot of guys see when the coach is gone, yeah, they say what he done, but they don't see what he left behind and how it carries on. If I tell you that for better or for worse, the people that I worked with at the School of Excellence, we are still friends. We make friends for life in coaching. But there's some people, when they leave, nobody wants to talk to them. Nobody ever wants to talk to them again. Whether they've won 10 trophies or whether they won 12 trophies, we don't want to see this man. And because we talk in a South African context, I can throw stones at the Europeans. Ask Chelsea of their players, how many of them still speak to Jose Mourinho? None of them. The second time around, none of them.
The second time around, yeah, you're right. For sure.
You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you, Coach. I hear you.
And
I hear
this for me is a legacy you leave behind. And the same thing I could say about Pep Guardiola. Ask who speaks to him from Bayern Munich, and 90% of those players still talk to him.
Yeah.
Ask how many people still speak to the madman, Marcelo Bielsa from Leeds. 99% of them still speak to him today to ask him, Coach, how do I play the game on the weekend? That's the legacy that I talk about. A good coach,
for sure.
When you and this is what they need, is to get someone like that to be able to intertwine with what they have now and make sure that they go forward positively, because Chiefs cannot take a back step, like Rob said, a Stellies or a Amazulu, or they can't take that step. For them to take that step back, it's a non-negotiable. They can't take that step back. They can only go forward. They cannot take a step back, because they are, and I say this in all respect, they are the biggest club in the SADC region, and they have to respect that. It's time they have to respect that themselves.
For sure. Okay, I hear you, Coach. Okay, we're going to end off this one with a message from Nomonde Dondolo on YouTube. She reckons Kevin is the right person. I don't know why he's busy with you here, Kamza. Kamza, please don't invite Coach Kevin so that he can go be available for Amakosi. So there we go. Your days are numbered on the show, Coach Kevin Johnson.
No. I've spoken. Gamza, I've spoken to Simpiwe about this. I've spoken to him about this. He'll talk to you after the show.
Okay. So there's a plan in place, a succession plan in place. Let's keep it moving and focus on a couple more of the results in the DSTV Premiership before we wrap up with Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns. Baroka, a bad defeat for the club, obviously, and for their coach, who's now then been demoted to the team. So yeah, Coach Tobejane now vacates his post. Vincent Kobola will carry on. I think he's co-coaching with so that's the plan until the end of the season. But Kelvin Sosibo, we kind of saw this one also coming from a mile away. But the coach coming out and saying, "Listen, I can't control what these guys do on the pitch. Chance after chance, there's only so much I can do." I mean, is this the right move to move him to the side, a level down with these few games of the season left?
You just
or was
never
it
know
too
what's
little,
going-
too late? Was it too little,
You
too late?
just you just never know what's going on with that club. It's a yo-yo. The coach goes up and down so often. So what do you expect the spine or the structure of the team to be if that's what you're doing? If as a technical team you are not sound and you do not have a plan, this is what happens. Look at the position that they're sitting in today and start realizing that they are fighting for their lives now to make it into the top league. Why did that happen? If they will get the right people and get the proper advice, I don't think they'll find themselves where they are. They've been a team that was trying to reach top 8. They're a team that was fighting to show us that they are not in the PSL by luck. But each and every time when they make these smaller blunders with the firing and hiring of coach, and then you rehire him again, you fire him, you rehire him again, it disrupts the team, and also it taints the confidence on the players, because the movement that is happening, it influences also on the players. I know maybe Tobejane is the type of a charismatic coach, a coach that jokes around, a coach that try and gets the team together. But when it comes to the most important part of the game, which is the tactical aspect, this is when now we need to see from you, if this plan is not working, what you come up with. How do you approach games? In what manner and what players are needed for a certain position, for a certain place for you to get out into the position that you are in right now? I think right now it showed that they didn't have a plan. They were just fluking. Results that they were getting is not results that were convincing. If anybody from here can tell me what's the identity of Baroka, I don't think on top of your head you can really tell this is the type of football that you're playing. So now whenever they get 3 points, you're like, oh, did you really win? Oh, yes. Okay, so the next one. So now they need to find somebody that's going to wheel the team, somebody that's going to steerhead the team into the right direction and make sure that he gives those players confidence. Surely, I'm going to make this example, coach, again. If you were there on that team, anything that you say because of in the level that you've been, players tend to listen attentively. I know it from personal experience. If I know that I'm coached by a best coach, it's always that I need to take instruction. You can see it from Sundowns. You can see it from Petro. You can see it from the coach from Stellis.
Yeah,
all
100%.
of that information, it comes through because players believe in that coach that he can make the change. And remember, it's not only about coaching. You are just a life coach to these people. For them to absorb and take information and give it their best, you see it in their face that they're hungry, they want to do it. But in that team, I can't really tell that what gear they are in now. Are they in mid gear, whatever? You never know. So I think that's my take on that point.
I mean, Rob, to Calvin's point, where you have this, club where, the head coach from the first team can go up and down between the teams, and it's the same people on the bench that are now tasked with leading this team. I mean, is that a pervasive culture that they've created now in at Baroka, that there is no real consequence, and the levels of excellence aren't really there for all to see? Because if they were, Coach Tobejane would have been out the front door, not just moved to another part of the bigger structure. Do you think there's enough of an air of excellence at Baroka?
Look, it's a difficult one, because the thing is that those coaches have been with the club for a very long time. They are what I call, I always remember this dude, Roy Evans at Liverpool, who was head coach for a while, but he was actually always on the bench for like 20 years before. And then when he wasn't coach, he went back there. So it's just frustrating, though, because the last time I was on with you, you actually said, is it too late for Baroka to change? And I said, no, change now. And what's frustrating for me is that I really like Vincent Kobola. And I really believe that Vincent could become a good coach one day. But I think they've given him 4 games. They've given him 4 games to pull off a miracle, and then he's going to have a CV potentially with relegated Baraka on it.
So you actually want to be Coach Tobejane, Rob? because he's kind of spared now. He gets to move and he's going to be responsible.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. 10 games. If you'd given Vincent 10 games, maybe that's a fair amount. And to be fair, if they'd done this 4 weeks ago, it would have been 8 or 9 games that they had. So the thing is that they've picked up, I think, 2 points in that period. They've thrown away a lead like they did on the weekend. Baraka is frustrating for me because they are doing some brilliant stuff in Limpopo. They like I said, the village and the village is bigger than that, but it's still nice to have a Premier League team at the top of that village, because it makes the kids have a bigger thing to aim for.
Exactly.
Coach Gavin, when he was at Ajax, that was a wonderful carrot for those kids. Already just Cape Town Spurs being in the Glad African Championship, the carrots like a little smaller now. I'm not seeing every kid in Cape Town rushing to sign for Cape Town Spurs. It was brilliant. They did win the Bay Hill 2 weeks ago, and that may change things a bit at the club and give them a bit of a boost. But now there's Ubuntu. Now there's Stellenbosch. There's Cape Town City. There are a lot of clubs suddenly in Cape Town that have actually maybe even moved ahead of Cape Town Spurs as the carrot. And Baraka had become that in Limpopo. And there's other clubs in Limpopo now. And if I'm a young kid, maybe I don't want to join Baraka anymore, despite them having this lovely village. I really hope Vincent rescues them, because I got to know him a bit when he was in Cape Town with Cape Town City, and I really do think he has the potential to be a great coach. He's a great players coach, but you're now giving him asking him to tightrope walk at the first attempt, and go for it. If you get across, we're all going to clap and we're going to cheer loud. But if you fall, we're going to boo you like an acrobat who's been doing this for years. So, yeah.
Fair enough. That's a good point. I hear you, Rob. I mean, they are putting him in a bit of a bind. I hope he makes it, because like you said, I think it'll be a nice feather in his cap if he can say, I rescued this team. But I think their problems run far deeper than just Coach Vincent Kobola, who's going to come in now and try to rescue the situation. On the opposite end of the coin, Coach, you have Swallows FC, who with that bought themselves a bit of a reprieve. I mean, they're sitting third from the bottom, but there's not many rounds of football left. This will be a big win for Dylan Kerr.
Yes, I'm sure. Gamza, look, coming back and winning it over the weekend against Baraka was big. It's like 12 points for Dylan, and he'll tell you himself he's got about 5 mountains to climb. Not a mountain, he's got about 5, and I think it's between the bottom 4.
It's quite tight. I mean, it's from 12th until 15th. There's only a gap of 2 points. So it's incredibly tight. Chippa United are in the mix. Maritzburg United are in the mix, sitting on 25 and 24 respectively. Both, Chippa have 5 games to go. Maritzburg only has 4, and then beneath them it's Swallows, Galaxy, and Baraka.
When you're in that position, Gamza, and I've been in that position before, after having 9 points from, I think it was 5 games, and then they deducted 6 points. I was last. If you remember that,
as at Amazulu, yeah.
Yes, I was flying. I was flying. I was happy with myself. Wow, here I am taking this new club, and we got 9 points out of, I think, 5 games, and we said, wow, this is it. And then they deduct 6 points, and I've got 1 point left, and I'm now completely last, and I'm 5 points away of the last guy, and I said, well, this is relegation, for sure.
Yeah.
But like Calvin says, if you organize yourself properly and you fight, and like we analyze it now, the last from you say the last seven teams, they're all in the job together. They're all in the in the basket together. So every game that they play against each other is cup finals.
For sure.
And the disadvantage we have in South Africa is there's no home or away game.
Yeah.
There's no home or away game. We don't have fans. They don't have fans. We don't have fans. So it doesn't matter. The only place where I saw fans, and honestly, for the weekend, was at
Stellenbosch, yeah, because Chiefs were in town. Yeah.
We love that. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Even the game with Sundowns, the game with Pirates, there are a few fans. It's not like it used to be when I was a kid. You get what I'm saying? And I miss that. So there's no home or away, and you can say what you want to. All our stadiums are good enough. The only ones that are really suffering now are the ones in Durban, because of you seen the game against Royal AM and AmaZulu. The pitch was completely bad, but that's because of God.
What's been happening there? Yeah,
it's because of God. You can't say anything else. It's because of God. So that cuts out everything. So, like Calvin has said, your preparation for every game has to be. You have to think of everything. Besides thinking of the first 11, you have to tell yourself, what happens if I get a red card? What happens if I get 2 red cards? What happens if my center forward is not playing? What I put this one on, I put that one on. So your preparation is gone over limit normally. Normally, this time of the season, every coach has got his first 11 players. It's set. And you got your subs, they set. No, you got to think of it completely different. You got to think of it in a more proactive way. And you got to think of all the things that happen. What happens if the referee is bad? If the ref is really, really against me? What do I do? How do I get it right? How do I get my players to play properly with or without the ref? Because all those things come into play now. You don't know, and it's Africa. You don't know if it's been bought, if it's not been bought. Those are things you got to think of now, and tell yourself, you know what? I'm playing against Gamza United. Gamza normally buys referees. I got to prepare for this. I got to prepare for that. So you got to think out of the box, and you got to think green all the time. That way you'd come out of a hole very, very well. And then, of course, your players. You spoke about Tobajani. Tobajani is a nice guy. He speaks well, and he creates an ambience for the television. Your players, Calvin said something, your players are susceptible to a lot of things you say on television. You got to make sure the players know that. You got to tell them beforehand, guys, I will say nothing about my tactics on television. I will say nothing about how the players are, but I will say so-and-so is making nonsense, and it's why. It's to throw them off the track of what my team is preparing. But your players must know that. Myself, personally, my players knew. This coach is going to go on TV, he's going to talk nonsense. He's talking, don't listen to him. He's talking rubbish. Because I told them.
Yeah, you
set them up beforehand.
You set them up
I set them up. They knew. So when they sat and watched TV, they said, look at this man.
That explains some of our press conferences with you.
You remember, Rob? You remember them, huh?
Okay. No, cool. No, I hear you, coach. Okay, no, don't worry. And Gamza United would never get busted. I'd pay that in Bitcoin. I'm just gonna run down the other results real quick. A lot of draws this weekend. Royal AM and AmaZulu, of course, playing out to a draw. Gallants and Supersport playing out to a draw. Arrows and Skukune playing out to a draw. And at least the draw between TS Galaxy and Maritzburg had goals in that one. It ended 1-1. Okay, we're going to move on now to CAF Confederations Cup. Let's start there with Orlando Pirates, and then we'll end with Mamelodi Sundowns. Pirates moving on to the next stage of the competition after a penalty shootout, one that saw Richard Ofori end up being one of the heroes by getting on the score sheet in that one, Rob. I mean, for Pirates, this is the season where, it keeps on giving. They have another opportunity now to go further and really pull the rabbit out the hat as far as this season is concerned, and a potential return of a trophy.
Yeah, look, I'm delighted that they got through. I think they were the better team over both legs. They hit the same hurdle that Pirates have been hitting every now and then when the form drops of not finding goal scorers. But it was quite an exciting game. I mean, look, the thing that is most frustrating about this entire past 2 weeks has been this VAR thing that we've been all so excited about. Thinking that here's this invention that's going to eliminate confusion. And all it did for the last 2 weeks was leave me very confused about what are rules. When is VAR supposed to be used? When is it not supposed to be used? The implementation of it was perhaps stole the show a bit. So I'm kind of so glad that Richard Ofori grabbed that attention back with a bit of heroics. That was fun as well. I always love it when a goalkeeper scores a goal. I think it's one of those moments that we always enjoy, even in a penalty shootout. And look, they kept the flag flying, because I was from a South African point of view. Saturday left me very depressed. Sunday, at least, there was a little bit of sun shining through after that result. And I also kind of hope, we've been speaking about Chiefs earlier and all of that. But Chiefs and Pirates are so important. It goes back. They're the big soft drinks, and we need the big soft drinks in the fridge in the front. You don't want these Frescas in the front. You want Coca-Cola in the front. Fresca's gone. So here's the thing: is that Orlando Pirates are actually the most successful South African team to reach semifinals. I think it's their sixth semifinal in all CAF competitions. And yes, it is the CAF Confederation Cup, not the Champions League, which we would have loved to have a semi-finalist in, but it's something. And at least it means that we guaranteed that South Africans will at least tune in to CAF to CAF football when it returns, because sometimes we do just switch off from what's happening on the continent when South Africans aren't involved. It's why we were also delighted with the South African contingent at Al Ahly, because suddenly I'm talking to people and everybody's an expert on Egyptian football, and this was not the case 6 years ago. I used to do the data research for the FIFA video games as well, and Egypt's in the game. And you know how hard it was to find any information on any Egyptian players? And these were national team players. Now suddenly I can go onto our local sites and see stuff about Egyptian football. So that's one of the great things about that. And having Pirates there means it's closer to us. I'm delighted.
Nice. No, Pirates move on. They're going to be facing Al Ittihad in the next round of the competition. Al Ahly Tripoli. There we go. Who beat Al Ittihad? There we go. That's their opponent for the next round of this competition. We do wish them well. It is a long road though, and a lot of stop and start. I hope they have the momentum and the wind at their back when everything resumes to be able to keep with this push. It would be great to see a South African team move further and further ahead in the Confederations Cup, especially Coach Kevin Johnson on the back of Mamelodi Sundowns not being able to progress any further in this tournament due to their loss over 2 legs against Petro.
Yeah, Gamza, when you talk about the Champions League, and I think Sundowns, their next game is probably going to be their most important game they play in the league. I think they play Cape Town City, and if they lose that, then they could easily lose the league. You know what I'm saying? Because of being in the Champions League. I think when you talk about Sundowns now, beating Al Ahly 2 times in one year, and then dropping out in the group stages is not acceptable in my book as a team of Sundowns caliber. They should have prepared a lot better for Petro. I think I'm talking about what I saw on the pitch, the personnel I saw on the pitch. I thought they had the personnel to actually take Petro to the dry cleaners when they got to South Africa. The fact that it was 2-1 in Angola, it was 2-1 in Angola, right? And then coming back into South Africa, they knew what it would take to beat Ahli. I think the preparations could have been a lot better. And I'm saying this in all respect. When I look at the personnel they put on the pitch, and I look at the personnel they took off the pitch, to up the game back up again, for me, was not good enough. The Sundowns caliber of player has got a lot more bite than what was shown out on Saturday. And I backed them to win the Champions League this year. I really backed them to at least go to the final. They didn't go to the final. They disappointed themselves. But in saying that, well done to Orlando Pirates. I thought they should have won the game in before full time on Sunday. I thought they lack the tenacity in front of the goals. I think there's certain things when I look at players that they do when they see the goal. When you see good really good players, when they see the goal post, they seem to calm themselves down. When you see Sadio Mane play, when you see Mo Salah play, and I only mention those names because those are Africans. Those people make me know that my African brothers have the same blood in, and they have that same tenacity. And how calm they are in front of goals. And when I look at Dion Hotto and I look at Peter Shaulile, and the two are Dion Hotto finds himself in a lot of spaces like that, but Peter Shaulile is as calm as hell. When you look at Kermit Erasmus in front of goals, he's calm. He's got that minus of a 30-second calmness that he knows where to put the ball. You know what I'm saying? In order to finish them. And in saying that, Simba's not an easy team. I mean, Gamza, Calvin, they got 11 million supporters, those people. Those people have 11 million or 12 million supporters. That's a lot of people supporting you. And that's why they are so strong. And you can see them. They Champions League material, not final material, but they go as far as they can, right up until the semi-finals, the quarterfinals. You know what I'm saying? Every year. And that is what we need from our teams. Our teams need to be there all the time. And like Robert said, Pirates have been the most successful thus far in the African competitions, but they need to win it. They must win it. They must win it. The Confederations Cup, they must win it. They can win it. They can win it. They need to be pushed.
No, and, for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking about being pushed, I mean, on that point, so do you think Sundowns are pushed hard enough in this league for them to be effective on the rest of the continent? I think I can draw parallels between them and Bayern Munich, who end up running away with the domestic league, and then obviously this year Bayern out in the semis, against Villarreal. And I'm looking at the other teams who've progressed, and I look at their league tables, and very, very compact at the top. Maybe it's 3 points, 4 points, 5 points, and games in hand, but is the lack of strong competition maybe for Mamelodi Sundowns, Sosi, affecting their form in CAF competition?
I would say, firstly, I think CAF is a different beast altogether. I think that's where you really realize that this is where football is played at the highest level. And surely that the coaches know about that, as Coach Kevin has alluded to that fact that the preparation should have been better. Domestically, we all know Sundowns is going to finish up with the trophy, which is the league. The biggest trophy that was at hand for biggest challenge was the CAF. Them being pushed by Pedro, it really showed in terms of the strides that they're taking. But however, I'm very happy to see them being consistent into this cup. them always putting a step forward. Even though last time they finished far better than this. Again, it comes to playing. But other than that, I think Sundowns has done very well for themselves. And I think with the machines that they're trying to build, it's getting to a stage now when everybody feels that Sundowns is supposed to win this tournament. Why? Because how the way they've played, beating the Giants Al Ahly twice, and them still running into this competition as strong as they've been. It's all a matter of now trying to them having a good balance in terms of that team on how you make those changes and how you prepare for a home game and an away game. I think they played absolutely beautiful when they played away from home, and which that gave them confidence that they can win it when they come home. But for me, the disappointing factor was that when they got the second leg, which was a home game, the chances that they created, man, a lot of chances that were supposed to be buried. The first half, this is when Sundowns was supposed to seal the game. Petro was nowhere to be found, and all that those guys needed, they kept on pressing and pushing forward because they just believed that if they can get that one, it's going to make a difference. Which is Sundowns. This is when they're supposed to press this team, because on all fronts, Sundowns was good on their counter press. They never allowed them to play at the back. You saw from the very first 7 minutes of the game, what happened was Sundowns pressed high on the high counter press. The defenders started to play short passes at the back and they failed, which is they got an opportunity. That was the first opportunity in 7 minutes. It was a signal that Sundowns was in a mission to win this game. But again, all those chances that were created and not being buried, it was something that was left at their demise. Would have they organized better in terms of getting into those final thirds and finishing those chances, I think we would be speaking a different case. And one of the players that actually made a difference on that team, I think the number 5, which was a central midfield, which was Soares. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Number 26, Azulia, which was a forward. Yano, the striker, and then Taxiera, which was the left midfielder, number 29. I think those players gave Sundowns a tough time in terms of playing into the half spaces. Good runners, very good technical on the ball, good crosses on the ball, the shifting, and also helping the compactness of the midfield, because Sundowns, they'll know they always want to play through the line. And blocking that made it difficult for Sundowns. As you saw, the tempo started dropping, and then they allowed the team, they allowed Petro to come into them and get that just one goal. How many chances and how many times they've been let off by the referee? First, it was the penalty that they got. Secondly, it was a disallowed goal that Petro got. Again, I'm saying Sundowns lost this game by themselves. This game was for them to take it for clean.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Appreciate that technical analysis. Yes, coach?
When you look at it, VAR actually let down Sundowns. The penalty, in my opinion, not a penalty. The one that Jali gets, it's not a penalty.
Sure.
Yep.
But when you look at it, the way that guy puts his leg in between Andile Jali.
He was looking for it.
He's a Brazilian. He's a Brazilian, Calvin.
He's got street smart, guys. He's got street smart.
They're not street smart. They're born to do that. But in my opinion as well, that referee, he is always like that. I played 2 Champions League finals. He's refed games for Ali about 4 times. He is always like that. He looks his high knees and everything like that. He runs around. He's very smiley. He's very smiley. He's doing his thing, but he's going to...
Is this ref Tesema, coach?
Yes, he is
Ethiopian.
Like that. That's the way he refs. That's the way he is. You know, he's got his high knees. You think, oh, he's nice. You know, he's going to kill you. He's going to take your feet out under you. You got to know that. Kills you with
the kindness.
He's got to know that. You've got to know that. And that's why I'm saying the preparation, for me, when I look at it now, and I'm reading the paper, Al Ahly has given the Egyptian Football Association 1.2 million rand to hire foreign referees to ref their games. This is the amount of effort these people are putting into the game. You
Yeah, coach, I've
understand what
always
I'm
wondered why we don't even have like as a region, like regional referee swap outs. You know, you get a ref from Bots and we send one to, Zambia. Like surely
They
there should be
need to
some
be
exchange.
professional. They need to be professional first.
So
Yes,
You know,
that's
so
like
the system is being held back because there's the lack of professionalism or
yes.
that idea. Mm,
But just look at what Ali does. And
mm,
you know what? I was comparing the other day. I looked Ali's budget for the year. You know what their budget is, Gamza?
mm,
330 million rand.
mm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yes,
That's
yes.
that's a lot of money, bro.
Their budget
That's a
is
lot of money.
330 million rand. You can't compare. They paying people.
Mm.
About it, guys. Think about it. We have to compete with them. And that's why I'm saying Sundowns, we needed to prepare a lot better. And like
Mm,
Calvin says, we had to win the game at
mm,
home.
mm,
When we went
mm,
to Angola, we looked like we underestimated them,
mhm,
but we played good football. Don't take it away. We played good football. Sundowns played very good football in Angola, and they came away with a 2-1. Coming back home, don't underestimate these people. Beat them.
hmm.
Beat them with the number 13, the number 14. Beat them. You had to beat them. And
Yeah,
they were
I
throwing
hear
their toys out of the cot and everything, but you had to beat them because why? Sundowns, you beat Ali twice. You beat a
you.
club with 330 million rand budget. You beat them twice. You got to
Yeah,
hit it in our players' heads. They
I hear
got to
you,
know
coach.
that.
I hear you, coach. I hear you. So,
I,
what now then does this mean for the coaches experiment? Because now it's both, 2 years running, quarters, not being able to get past that. We know it's the cakewalk in the league, Rob, and you know that, they're gonna. That's not a problem as to their DSTV Premiership form, but should the judges be, a judge? I mean, the coaches be judged on the lack of African silverware, or should it be a mix of they've achieved on the home front and not on the rest of the continent? How do you as management at Sundowns kind of grade the season that you've had?
it's about to hit a tricky situation because this is the third quarterfinal Sundowns have been knocked out in,
yes.
and they're also creating the profile of, we are bigger than domestic football. So now it's getting to a point where they're talking about being Champions League, and I mean champions of the Champions League. So when you set your targets that high and you don't hit them over and over and over again, well, then maybe that's where you're going to look, is at the coaches. Because let's be frank. I mean, Sundowns were quarterfinalists last year. They signed Kutamela, Mayema, Grant Kakana, Pavel Sofranko, and I think one or two more in June, July. So already strengthening. Then in January, they bring in Tebogo Mokoena, Urban Saavedra, and Surprise Rolani. So now they've really strengthened. They're already winning the league. They've already won the MTN8. They're in the semi-finals of the Nedbank Cup, and they're one victory away from a fifth DSTV Premiership title. So that should. I mean, with all that strengthening, that they should be favourites for everything domestic next year. So the target is the Champions League, and this, unfortunately, there's going to be lots of what ifs, the what if syndrome that's going to happen. What if VAR had been on their side a little more? What if they'd taken their chances? What if this had happened? What if Saavedra hadn't been injured? Because I'm with Coach Kevin. If somebody had given me, I don't bet. So if somebody had given me 5,000 Rand to bet, I would have put it all on Sundowns, and especially after the two victories over Al Ahly, because I would have thought that would have boosted them even more, and really made them believe. And the way they were playing just before all of this, rotating the squad and still looking so good, it meant all these players were fresher than they've ever been in this scenario. So now you've set yourself up. You've climbed a very high mountain and you said, I'm going to get to the top. And then you fell over the other end. So from my point of view, the coaches have done an amazing job. Okay, no doubt about that. But when you judged on success and you don't succeed with the target that you are aiming for, if you know, it's why in baseball, the embarrassing thing is when you point and you say, I'm going to hit a home run, and then you miss all 3 swings, then you're a laughing stock. But if you set it and you hit it, well, then you're a star. So if you're setting, if you, and this is the thing, is Sundowns, I mean, they've also just brought in Henning Berg as sporting director to not only be the best club on Africa, to be the best youth club in Africa, to be everything. That's where they're aiming. If you don't make it, then you have unfortunately might get replaced.
Well, I mean, they aim for the stars and land under the clouds. So what does that do for them? You know, it's not all, like you said, it's not all bad.
It's not all.
They have
they still
local
domestic
trophies
everything.
To win. Exactly. Yeah.
So look, in the next 2 weeks, maybe everything ends the season in this wonderful high. But that means it's going to build up the Champions League for next season even more. And if their former coach wins it again, well, now there's this new rivalry that's been added, not necessarily a club rivalry, but also a coach rivalry as well. You know, that must rub salt into the wounds a bit, because the club, like Kevin said very early on about him being a coach, it's about for the club. Well, at the moment, Petro is saying, well, look, I brought all that success and I'm taking it with me to Egypt. And while we as South Africans, actually, as much as I love Petro succeeding, my favorite thing in the world, and I apologize for this, Kevin, I would have loved Chiefs to beat you last year as a South African. I would have loved it. It would have been wonderful. But we had the silver lining that when you guys won, we could still see the flag, and that was that. But I still want the majority South African team to win, and that's not happening this year.
But at least, Rob, we got the gold medal at home, man.
Yeah, no. I'm happy we've got it, but I would love to have 25 of them.
Nah.
Yeah, I know. We have a gold medal in our midst. Yeah. We have a gold medal in our midst.
Are you talking about the CAF? The CAF?
I'm talking, yes.
Where is it, Coach? Go fetch it. We don't mind. We'll wait. You can go in the cabinet there and show us. Oh, there we go. There it is. Oh, we see it there. Lots of medals on that wall.
Okay, good.
Oh my goodness, I have done nothing with my life after seeing that wall. I'm like, okay, I need to need to go win some things.
Coach, you must send that wall to these clubs who are talking to you. Remind them of that as well.
No, the one side is my daughter's Olympic wall, right? And the other side is just that's all.
Nice.
All right. Ah, nice.
Thanks, Calvin.
Nice. Valuable walls in that house. Valuable walls. All right. Well, there we go, gents. Thank you so much. We've wrapped it up. I think it's come to a nice, natural woosa of an end. Rob Delport, you've been great. I don't know. Who's that on your left shoulder? Or is that Mr. Mokoena? Oh, no. That
is the man who has a gold medal too. That's Mr. Kakana.
Mr. Kakana there. And then the other side is Mr. Mokoena.
There's Mr. Mokoena.
Who won't be getting a medal this season. And Petro, who might be getting a medal this season.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Who knows how it's going to pan out? Calvin Sosibo, thank you to you too. What is the rest of your week looking like? Are you training? Are you in work clothes right now, actually?
Yes, sir.
Always on the job.
I'm always on duty. Like right now, that's why I couldn't miss it. I'm practicing.
Do you also do those things where you wake up like the Scouts of Sundowns at like 3 a.m. and watch Brazilian football?
Not really, but I do have some recorded games that if I'm bored, I wake up and then I watch them and just see the way how teams play, how I'd want maybe youngsters to play, and just to improve, because it's still the same level where they can still learn. But when there's money and there's trophies involved, it's different. Now you're playing for result, but don't forget the principles.
Okay, and then coach, you're off to go buff your medals? Or what are you going to do for the rest of the evening?
No, I'm at home. I'll spend the time with my wife.
And ignore the phone calls.
The little
Ignore the
time
phone
you
calls.
got left to spend with her. The little time,
I-
the little QT that you have available before things
Rob,
get
what you
crazy.
say? Ignore the phone calls. No, I told simply first phone call that come. With Calvin, with first phone call that comes to me, we're having a chat about what we're gonna do.
As a group, man. As a group. I love it.
Are we
love it.
gonna cut this cake?
Slices for everybody. Big ups to you two who's been watching on YouTube.
For
Thank you
sure.
so much for watching Monday Night Football with us here at Front Runner. For myself, Kamumbata, and the team behind the scenes, PMB. We'll catch up with you in a week's time, but stay linked on the socials, whether it's YouTube or Twitter, for more as to what's happening.